Alrighty, Season 5, Volume 1. Let's start with Chapter 1, obviously, the crawl, and go through them one by one. So, before anything new happens in Season 5, the story takes us backward, not forward, not into the future, back to the very first moment the system broke. We open on Will. Not the Will we know now, but the original Will. The child hiding in a fort, small and quiet, embraced. And this time, when the Demogorgon finds him, it doesn't feel random anymore to us. Because we now understand something the show has been quietly telling us for years. This wasn't the first time Vecna touched Hawkins. This was the first time he touched a child. When Vecna sends the vine into Will's mouth and says, "Finally, we can begin. You and I are going to do such beautiful things together, William." This isn't a threat. It's a contract. Psychologically, this is the moment a trauma imprint binds to a nervous system that isn't ready to process it yet. Not possession, adaptation. Will survives, but part of him is recruited. And then the show cuts. November 3rd, 1987. The same morning rhythm as Season 1. The Wheeler house, breakfast, a child calling the family together. The system is repeating itself. But now, Hawkins is under military guard. That's important. Because when a psyche feels unsafe, it doesn't heal by itself. It installs control. It installs the rules, the barriers, the weapons, the surveillance of it all. The military thinks it's containing, well, a monster. But what they're really doing is reinforcing a freeze response. And while the adults are busy building walls, the kids are already reorganizing. You see it immediately. Lucas steps in when bullies go after Dustin. Mike joins without hesitation. There's no debate, no hierarchy. This is what healthy protectors look like when they're coordinated. Not reactive, not ego-driven, just relational. At the same time, 11 is training. Not fighting, training. Running obstacle courses. And when she tells Hopper she's ready to do one of the crawls, he says no. Not because she's weak, because self doesn't rush. A crawl isn't about power, it's about regulation. You don't enter unstable territory until the system can come back out intact. Meanwhile, Will's body starts speaking. The back of the neck, the sensation before the thought. He isn't seeing things, he's remembering them. And Holly, a child even younger than Will was, starts talking to someone no one else can see. This matters because in families, unprocessed trauma doesn't disappear. It migrates. Holly isn't imagining something. She's picking up what the system hasn't metabolized. Her teacher noticed. Her parents argued. The adults labeled it as behavior. But we know better now. This is an exile trying to speak. Mac, still in a coma, is the cleanest image of this. Her body isn't alive. Or sorry, her body is alive. Her mind is offline. Lucas plays the song over and over again, running up that hill. Not because he thinks it will magically fix her, but because rhythm and familiarity are how you tell a frozen nervous system, you're not alone. You're still here. Then Hopper crosses over into the upside down, and immediately the illusion of control collapses. The Demogorgons don't fight the soldiers. They overwhelm them. Because force doesn't stop trauma. It feeds it. Will feels it before anyone sees it. He looks at Nancy and knows, not guesses, that they're going after her family. Because when a system destabilizes, it doesn't attack randomly. It goes for attachment points. And that's where the opposite happens and the episode ends. Not with a battlefield, but with a home. Parents are drinking. The parents are fighting. You can visually see there's a disconnect happening. A child, Holly, upstairs, crying alone. And the Demogorgon doesn't come through a gate in the woods. It comes through the ceiling. Because the boundary between inside and outside has failed. That's what the crawl really means. Not a physical maneuver, but the moment a system realizes. We can't outrun this anymore. We can't wall it off either. We have to go through it though. Slowly, carefully, and together. Season 5 doesn't start with a war. It starts with a re-entry point. Back to the origin. Back to the child. Back to the moment the body learned how to survive. And now, finally, the system is preparing to finish what it couldn't back then. This brings us to chapter 2, the vanishing of Holly Wheeler. All right, so chapter 1 was about the system reopening. Chapter 2 is about who gets taken when nobody is listening. The episode doesn't begin with chaos. It begins with a child doing the most human thing there is. Holly runs to her mother and says, "The monster's here." And her mother does what most adults do. Not because she's cruel, not because she doesn't love her daughter, but because her nervous system cannot tolerate the truth yet. She says, "There are no monsters. They're not real." And then she touches the back of Holly's head while she embraces her in a hug. And her hand comes away bloody. That moment matters, because that's the moment denial collapses. You can't unsee blood. Psychologically, this is the exact instant a parent realizes the danger is not abstract, not imagined, and not somewhere else. It's already in the house. The Demogorgon doesn't burst in dramatically. It approaches. Slowly down the hall, methodically, until it winds up at the bathroom door. The father's outside shooting some golf balls. and he notices the flickering lights, the first signal of threat. And he goes to investigate alone. And this is very important, because when a system is under stress, protectors start to separate. One parent goes toward the threat, one stays with the child, and neither has the full picture. Holly and her mother hide underwater in the bathroom, in the tub. That image isn't subtle. It's the most ancient survival response there is. You submerge. Hold your breath. Disappear. Don't let the predator sense that you're there. This is mammalian fear, very ancient. And when the father enters the room, the Demogorgon doesn't hesitate. It throws him aside like he was nothing, just like an object. Because trauma doesn't negotiate with logic, strength, or intention. It just overwhelms. What happens next is one of the most important moments in this chapter. Holly's mother stands up, daughter behind her back, a bit bloody, terrified, unarmed even. And she says to the Demogorgon, "Don't you touch my daughter." This isn't strategy. This isn't power. This is Mama Bear. This is attachment overriding fear. She smashes the wine bottle and attacks anyway, not because she thinks she'll win, but because a parent protecting a child doesn't calculate the odds. She is injured, left bleeding on the kitchen floor. And by the time Nancy and 11 arrive, well, it's already done. Holly is gone. This is what trauma looks like when it targets the youngest, least defended part of the system. It's not because Holly is special, but because she was available. Nancy's response is immediate and raw. She scrubs the blood repeatedly over and over from her hands in the hospital, trying to wash it all away, trying to erase what just happened. And then she turns on the others. She starts to say, "This is our fault. We should have told them. We should have warned them. We should have warned them all. We could have changed this." This is survivor guilt activating. The mind trying to regain control by rewriting the past. But then Lucas says something that shifts the entire mood. Guys, it's November 3rd. Not coincidence. Pattern. He remembers that Will was taken 3 days later on November 6th for the first time. And suddenly the system realizes something terrifying. Time isn't repeating, it's completing a loop. This isn't random escalation. It's the psyche returning to its origin point. That's why the military can't contain it. You can't secure a memory with soldiers. You can't wall off something that's happening inside the system. Meanwhile, 11 is already in the upside down. And she doesn't arrive through tunnels. She arrives through a Demogorgon gate. When Hopper sees her in the upside down, he reacts immediately. You don't do that. You take the tunnels. You wait until it's safe. That's a protector speaking right there. Rules. Timing. Trying to use containment to protect. And 11 answers him with the most important line in this chapter. She says, I wasn't thinking. I was acting on instinct. Not emotion. Not impulse. Instinct. This is self-led movement. Not faster, just truer. She can't sense Holly either at this point. And that absence matters. Because when an exile is taken deep enough, it disappears from awareness. That doesn't mean it's gone. It means it's unreachable from the outside. Will understands this before anyone else. He tells Joyce the connection was never really gone. It had just faded. It quieted. Especially after they moved out of Hawkins. But it returned the moment he came back. Because this was home. Because place actually matters. The body remembers where it was hurt. Robin says something that sounds casual, but it isn't. She says, maybe you're like a receiver or something. And Will begins to realize that she's right. He's not possessed. He's attuned. Trauma didn't turn him into a monster. It turned him into an antenna. Jonathan and Steve, meanwhile, are having their own quiet reckoning inside the vehicle, deciding what to do next. They're posturing, competing, performing masculinity and loyalty until they look at each other and realize they're both hiding. Bravado is just another protector. And neither of them is actually being present. Back in the Upside Down, Hopper finally lets his armor crack a little bit. He's been grazed by a bullet. And he needs to rest. And 11 begins to do some first aid. And as she's doing this, he tells 11 about his daughter, about losing her, about regret. And he says something crucial. There's uncertainty in this world. This isn't a warning. It's an initiation. You see, because certainty is an illusion protectors cling to. Self can tolerate not knowing. Then they reach this wall. A massive barrier. Unmovable barrier, to be precise. It's unresponsive. No force works on it. No power opens it. Because this isn't a physical wall. This is a psychic boundary. And some parts of the system cannot be entered by force. When Karen finally speaks, or actually writes the name Holly was using, not Mr. What's-It, but Henry. Nancy and Mike instantly know. The pattern locks in. Henry isn't hiding. He's inviting. And Holly is walking with him now into something that looks like a home. It's clean. It's warm. It feels familiar. A place before pain. This episode ends with Mr. Sandman playing in the background. And of course, it's not by accident. Because Sandman doesn't kill children. No. He puts them to sleep. And that's what freeze is. Poppies. Poppies will put them to sleep. Sleep. This isn't terror. Not struggle. Just simple sleep. So chapter 2 isn't about losing Holly, in essence. It's about the system realizing who gets taken when truth is denied. The youngest part, the quietest part, the one that believes the voice saying, "Come with me. I'll keep you safe." And now the system has no choice. It can't deny anymore. It can't contain anymore. It has to go where Holly went. Not with weapons, though. Not with walls. But with presence. All right, now we're at chapter 3, the Turbo Trap. So again, if chapter 2 showed us who gets taken, chapter 3 shows us It begins at the wall. 11 says what we've heard her say before. I opened the gate. I can open this. And Hopper answers with something different this time. Not fear, not control, reality. You had a full battery the last time. And this matters because brute force didn't fail due to weakness. It failed because this wall isn't meant to be broken that way. Some barriers aren't locked. They're designed. And then we cut to Joyce. Protective. She's anxious. She's spiraling. She confronts Robin in the car for letting Will wander. And Will finally does something he's never done before. He doesn't freeze. He speaks. I'm right here, Mom. You can talk to me. This is Will reclaiming agency. Not by running. Not by resisting. But by setting a boundary. He tells her the plan worked. He tells her the risks are real. And then he says the line that changes everything. Next time you think I'll just stand beside you, I won't. That's not rebellion. That's differentiation. This is a child stepping out of the parent's fear field. Joyce doesn't argue because deep down she knows this isn't her trauma anymore. Then we meet little Turnbow, a boy who sees Henry, and Henry sees him back. They smirk. That's not menace. That's recognition. Because predators don't hunt through terror alone. They hunt through mirroring. Back at the house with Holly, everything looks gentle. Henry tells her parents are being taken care of. He offers food, music, and comfort. He gives rules though, but they sound reasonable. You can go anywhere in the house. Just don't leave the property. Don't go into the woods. That's how traps work. Not with bars, but with conditional freedom. Then he gives her her favorite album, a cassette player. And every time she asks, "How did you know?" he says the same thing. Just a hunch. That word is important because intuition is real. But borrowed intuition is how trauma convinces you it's safe. And Holly senses something else outside just before she walks into the house. She clutches her necklace. That's not fear. That's her system saying, I'm not alone, but I'm not safe either. Meanwhile, the military tries something new. They don't shoot 11, they neutralize her. It was like a sonic weapon, flattening, disorientating. This isn't about killing self. It's about disabling it long enough to regain control. Hopper does what most protectors do best. He adapts. He hides behind this sign. Turnbow housing coming soon. That sign isn't background decoration. It's the thesis. A housing development. A manufactured neighborhood coming to a city near you. Safety sold in neat little rows. And he blows the weapon. Self comes back online. 11 is again conscious. And the gang starts planning. And notice what they do. They don't attack Henry. They don't charge the Upside Down. They engineer a parallel trap. They kidnap Derek Turnbow, drug the family, blindfold them. Not because they're cruel, but because sometimes you have to interrupt a system to expose it. Erica injects the needle herself into the sister because hesitation gets people killed. And at the barn, Joyce finally says the truth she's carried for years. She tells Will she wasn't home. She drank. She watched TV. She didn't notice Will was gone for 8 hours. This isn't confession. This is integration. And Will doesn't save her. He doesn't soothe her. Although he tries, but she wasn't having it. He just stays present. Because guilt that's seen loses its power. The Demogorgon comes exactly as predicted. But it doesn't get Derek. Because the trap was never about Derek. It was about tracking the path. And when the signal turns, Will realizes something horrifying and clarifying at the same time. It knows where we are now. This isn't chess. It's resonance. Trauma doesn't chase randomly. It follows familiarity. Now Holly thinks for a bit and decides to enter into the woods. Not because she's disobedient, but because curiosity feels safer than waiting. She falls, panics, runs, and then she sees her. It's Max. She's alive. Still? How could this be? Just waiting? This is the reveal. Max was never gone. She was held in the same place Holly was being guided toward. Because this isn't about killing children. It's about gathering exiles. Children who froze. Children who were unseen. Children who learned safety through imagination. Chapter 3 ends where all traps end. Not in violence, but with the realization that danger was never the monster. It was the promise. Stay here, and I'll take care of you. And now the system understands something new. You don't escape this by fighting harder. You escape it by going where the trapped parts are, without lying to them. The Turnbow trap isn't a place. It's a promise. Stay here, follow the rules, and you won't have to face the world. Here we are, chapter 4, the sorcerer. By the time we reach sorcerer, the story has shifted. This episode isn't about monsters anymore. It's about power and where it comes from. A sorcerer isn't a king. A sorcerer isn't self. A sorcerer is someone who borrows power to survive. That's the difference. We see it first with Derek. He agrees with Joyce and cooperates. He plays along. He calms everyone down. And then the moment the pressure eases, he bolts. That's not villainy. That's false compliance. It's what traumatized systems do when they don't feel safe enough to be honest yet. They say yes. They smile. The second they can, they run. At the same time, Will is changing. He isn't just sensing danger anymore. He's seeing through it now. Through the Demogorgon's so-called eyes. Through the hive mind. This isn't possession. It's over-identification. When a sensitive nervous system has been invaded once, it can learn the predator from the inside. It's how some people survive. But there's a cost. Because when you track danger from inside the danger, your boundaries start to blur. And that's why Max matters. Max isn't hiding in fear. She's hiding in a place Vecna cannot enter. The cave. She says it herself. There's something about this place he won't come into. That's not magic. That's psychology. Trauma cannot enter a memory that contains choice. It can't enter a space where the body remembers agency, ownership, selfhood. Max didn't defeat Vecna with strength. She outgrew him by building a sanctuary he could no longer have access to. And then Dustin figures something out. The barrier isn't random. It's a circle. And at the center, Hawkins' lab, this is the quiet truth of the series. Trauma spreads outward. Healing moves inward. This origin point matters. Meanwhile, 11 is immobilized. Not because she's weak, but because world control shuts self down. External force can suppress symptoms, but it can't restore agency. And Hopper knows this. That's why he straps on the bombs. Not to win, but to stop the collapse. It's a protector move. A last line of defense. And then we reach the moment that unsettles everyone. Will stands still. His eyes go white. And the Demogorgons freeze. He looks like Vecna. This is the moment people misunderstand. This isn't Will becoming the villain. And it isn't awakening dark power. It's something far more human. It's borrowed power. In psychology, it's called identification with the aggressor. When the system is overwhelmed, a protector may temporarily speak the language of the threat, just long enough to stop it. And it works. But this isn't integration. Borrowed power always works and always costs something. That's why the episode ends here. Because sorcerer isn't the destination. It's the bridge. You can stop monsters by becoming like them. But you can only heal by becoming yourself. And the story hasn't finished that part yet. And we also see 11 meeting 8 again behind the door.